Man, this entire offseason, I feel like the topic of conversation has been James Cook, man. Is he going to play? Is he going to be happy? And while we have discussed this ad nauseum, I feel like quite a few of us have forgotten that we also have a running back on this roster who showed quite a bit of promise. And that just so happens to be Ray Davis. And on today's episode, I would like to paint a picture of why I believe that he could be a player that not only could see a massive increase in his overall production based off of his success with a very limited sample size, but also how the Buffalo Bills may need to transition over to him as their premier running back, or at least the running back that dominates most snaps, based off of how specific defenses played the Buffalo Bills against the run. As many of us know, this league is an adjusting league, right? And you know that defensive coordinators are watching tape from 2024 and trying to find reasons why they were not successful against particular teams. And I feel like that's no different from all of the Buffalo Bills opponents. Many of these defensive coordinators who are on our schedule are probably going to look at what made our run game so successful last year, and perhaps they may need to make some adjustments. And when they make adjustments, in turn, the Buffalo Bills need to do the exact same thing. And I'm very excited to unpack why I am so hyped up about Ray Davis going into 2025 and how I think that his numbers are about to absolutely explode. Folks, welcome to another edition of the Don Mafia Report, live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. EST. I unpack all of the trending stories surrounding the Buffalo Bills, your favorite NFL organization. If, for a matter of fact, that you do enjoy the show, please do me a favor and smash that like button. It is the easiest way to show love over here. And when you subscribe, make sure you turn on bell notifications because I want you to have an opportunity of joining me live. As many of you know, I begin my show speaking for about 15 to 20 minutes on the topic at hand, and then I transition exclusively over to the live chat where I allow my audience to take control of the conversation with a Q&A segment. Man, I am pumped up about today. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Congratulations to Josh Allen for marrying Haley Steinfeld. I saw pictures all over the internet. I know everyone's pumped about this. And one ring, one to go, as my buddy Spidey Munn in the chat has already suggested. We have my good friend Jason came in, who has been a member for 13 months, mind you. What's up, Dan? I'm so pumped for this upcoming season. You and me both, my friend. And shout out to Scott Blakely in the chat. Flip the Yazin is in the chat. No bones about it. Sean Kula is in the chat as well. Man, I am looking forward to today's episode. So, folks, why am I so high on Ray Davis? Now, as far as his numbers on paper and the box score are concerned, certainly we're not jumping off of into the paper, if you will, right? Like many would look at this and they're just like, oh, Dan, he wasn't utilized very often, and the Buffalo Bills were so clearly a James Cook offense. Why fix what's not broken? Why would Joe Brady like to revert? Well, you're probably right, because right out of 113 attempts, he went for 442 yards, 3.9 on average, 3 touchdowns, and added a couple right into the receiving game. But that's not particularly something that I look at as a bar none conclusion of what we can expect from him in 2025. I like looking at some of the advanced metrics that really propel this guy into potentially being an RB1 for us. And it has everything to do with his explosiveness and overall efficiency. Last year, his explosive play rating was at 88.9 on a scale based off of 100. And I think that that number can speak to us, but just watching it on tape, we can certainly see it, right? Like his explosive play rate was through the roof. 4.9 yards per touch. That was 26th among all running backs in the NFL. And granted, like I said, small sample size. But when there's 32 teams in the NFL and he is in the top 32 as a guy that was only second in touches to James Cook, that also needs to be something that should indeed be encouraging. His juke rate was at about 23.1%. That was 14th. So not only is he that big bowling ball type running back, he's also very, very elusive. He's versatile in the passing game, as we know. And one thing that was pointed out on X the other day, which I found to be very, very interesting, I think it was Uber Hansen or something like that from Cover One who pointed out that when he went up against the Jets, and that team was like top 10 in several different running metrics or run defense metrics, absolutely gashed him. Now, whether or not that's a lack of tape, who knows? But Ray Davis has shown over and over and over again that he could be that guy. Now, this is something that I really feel is going to spell a look into the future for the Bills running game. And it had to do with how many times Ray Davis versus James Cook experienced light boxes. And that's something I think, and honestly, I was surprised that more defensive coordinators didn't adjust. Because Ray Davis only ended up facing 22.1% of the time light boxes, right? So the guy was wildly productive when oftentimes most of the defensive lines or the defensive line, sort of coaches or defensive coordinators would stack the box all but 22.1% of the time. That is compared to James Cooks, who experienced the light box 42.5% of the time, suggesting that he often ran against more stacked defenses, if you will. Now, I feel like defenses, when they look at how James Cook, for the most part, gashed several of these defensive, so I'd say game plans here. I think one would assume that a lot of defenses are probably going to make the adjustment where they're going to say, okay, we saw James Cook nearly crack 1,000 yards last year. Like, he was an absolute menace. We're going to have to stack a bit more boxes, right? We are going to have to come together and put together a solution where we can try and slow that down. And as much as I love James Cook, right? Like, he's super versatile. He's very, very fast. But I don't think that he would be a quality running back if that just so happens to be the strategy from defenses attempting to make an adjustment in 2025. And we're going to need somebody like Ray Davis that could be that person, that could see quite a bit more of a call / carries, if you will. Now, I did end up putting together, right, 3 reasons why I think Davis is going to have a massive ascension in 2025. And I don't think it's going to be because Cook is going to sit out. I don't think that it's going to be because he's going to be unhappy or Sean McDermott's going to be upset. But hear me out. Number one, has a complementary skill set, right? James Cook excels in open space and receiving. He does, right? Like, that's his bread and butter. That is ultimately how he was ranked and looked at as a top 5 running back last year when it came into production, when it came into scoring, etc. Davis, on the other hand, brings power running dimension, particularly valuable in short yardage and goal line scenarios. It was wild to me that Ray Davis wasn't used as much as I thought that he would have been right in those red zone opportunities, short yardage and goal line. I think that all changes this year. And I also think, as I've said already, that a lot of defenses are going to look at the tape from last year and just be like, why the hell did we not stack the box against this Bills run game more often than not? And with that being said, I think Ray Davis is going to have to be the guy. And it works. His physical attributes are all over the place. He's 5'8". He's 220 pounds. That is a big human being. Somebody that can run in between the tackles, right? Has compact, sturdy built. He's ideal for absorbing contact and maintaining balance through tackles. I think that's something this team needed to implement a hell of a lot more, especially once you start going up against better defensive lines, right? And let's just take a look at some of the teams we're going to be playing this year. Yes, I understand that we've gone through the Buffalo Bills schedule, and a lot of us are convinced that the only game that worries us is week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. And then afterwards, several contributors I have spoken with are convinced that we're not going to lose again, or we don't have an opportunity of losing until the Philadelphia Eagles, which is the second to the third last game of the season. But some quality defensive lines, some big body defensive lines we're going to be going up against. And then last but not least, how we would fit into the coaching and offensive scheme, right? Bill's offensive philosophy is emphasizing versatility and unpredictability, and aligns well with Davis's multifaceted skill set, potentially leading to increased with the opportunities. So I'm very high on Davis, man. I'm very high on Davis, and I don't think that it has anything to do with Buffalo being mad at James Cook for his contract situation. I don't think it has anything to do with, oh my God, we're going to have to give him more carries because what if James doesn't play? I don't think that really is playing a factor at all. But I do understand, while there is merit to why fix what's not broken, I do feel that most dominant offenses need to make slight adjustments because your opponents are going to be making the adjustments to attempt to stop what made you successful the year previous. So watch for Ray Davis's complete production to absolutely skyrocket. And a lot of us are going to feel very comfortable as well. Once it gets into next offseason, and James Cook, of course, he ends up going into a different team, right? Because that is still my take. I have a feeling that he's going to play this year. He's going to do very well. And then we are going to let him walk in free agency, is likely where I am at. So let's go on ahead and move over to the live chat, and let's open up the conversation. Folks, as many of you know, this is my Q&A segment. It's quite simple, and really all we need to do is just label each and every single question and or statement appropriately with a Q dash or an S dash so I can easily decipher between the two and ensure that anybody listening on the replay of this episode and or on the audio facet of it has a quality experience. Man, I am looking forward to that. So load up your questions. And right before I get into that, I have to give a giant shout out to William Mattar. Folks, if you were ever hurt in a car, you better call William Mattar, #1 car accident attorney in the state of New York. I would never wish a car accident on anybody, but say, for example, it does happen to you. It's very important to make sure you find the perfect representation and look no further than my good friend on the screen right now. Shout out to William Mattar for being a proud sponsor of this channel for the entirety of the 2025 season. So again, folks, when it comes into the Q&A segment, please do me a favor and label each and every single question / statement with the like this. Alice. Shout out to Alice, who has come in with the first question. He says, Dan, and do you think Stephon Diggs is going to get booted? So I think it's an interesting question, right? Based off of what I have seen from Mike Vrabel, like he is typically a no-nonsense type guy. It's hard for me to put or pinpoint a real prediction down. I don't know what sort of substance Diggs had on that boat like last week. It's very easy to assume, very, very easy to assume, but I'm not going to go out and make accusations when I don't have the full story. So I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, they did walk away, because that's a terrible sign / sort of preview rate of what to expect. And like it or not, like while Steph Diggs certainly did a great job in developing Josh Allen, right, in my opinion, wherever the dude goes, I feel like trouble just follows him, right? Like he has had issues with the Minnesota Vikings locker room, same thing with the Bills. And while I heard everything was good in Houston, he's already causing some unnecessary drama right to the New England Patriots, and the season hasn't even begun. And he is also recovering from an ACL tear. I saw that the Patriots could avoid paying him a significant amount of money if they were to walk away from him. So I suppose we're all just going to have to wait and see what the New England Patriots organization does decide. But I don't know. We shall see. We have Jason has come in with a statement, and I appreciate that. Guys, as you're coming in, please do me a favor. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't had an opportunity of doing so already. And my boy Jason comes in and says, if Cook was smart, he'd do everything he can to stay with the Bills if he wants a great career. LOL. So I think that this largely has to do with the debate of whether or not that the offensive line makes James Cook good, or James Cook is just a very solid running back. So I think it's somewhere in the middle, right? I do think that James Cook would benefit from spending the majority of his career right over in Buffalo, as long as they keep that offensive line DNA intact as much as humanly possible. Because say, for example, that he were to go behind a very bad offensive line, right? Or like terrible blocking wide receivers, it's hard for me to see him succeed, right? Now, granted, It's largely the same for just about every other running back in the NFL, maybe with the exception of Derek Henry, and same thing with Saquon Barkley. Those are the type of running backs that are going to have production regardless, just based off of pure athleticism and strength. When you see a player like James Cook, right? Like he's certainly more of a finesse guy, right? Loves getting to the outside, like utilizes his speed. He's not somebody that can really run in between the tackles, right? Unless, of course, you have a quality run blocking scheme. So I do think that you have a point there. That say that he were to go to a team that had, I'd say, like an average offensive line, I don't think that he would be sort of anywhere near as productive. That's my thought. That's my thought when it comes into it. Bill 716. I don't think Ray Davis has a breakout season. I think his stat line will be 130 carries, up 17 from last year, 500 yards, up 58 yards from last year, and 3 touchdowns. I don't view Ray as anything more than an RB2. It's largely going to be what defenses are giving us, right? Because what we found out at the beginning of the episode is James Cook, he only ended up seeing 44.7% of light boxes, right? Where Ray Davis saw 22.7%. So they stacked the box rate against Ray Davis. Now, stacking the box does have its issues because that opens up a lot of things for Josh Allen to dice you up with, right? Especially right in the middle of the field. But I do think that there are going to be some defensive adjustments from our opponents that attempt to limit what James Cook can do. And the only way to circumvent that would be to implement Ray. Now, I'm not going to say that he's going to go out there and like have a 1,000 yard season, but I do think a 600, 750 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns, especially since that, like, we need to utilize him right in the red zone in short yardage, right? Need to utilize him in short yardage. He's 5'8", he's 220 pounds. Especially say, for example, that Buffalo like doesn't want to keep rolling the dice right on the health of Josh Allen. And like we need to get those 1 to 2 yards in the goal line. I feel like Ray Davis has to be that guy. But I feel like you're right there, Bill 716. We have Calvin Tim has come in saying, if Diggs is cut, what teams are desperate enough to get him? I am thinking Dallas. So I think Dallas would be interesting. And then also don't sleep on the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders would probably also be interested. And that's even if he gets any interest at all. That could be a situation there. We have Zach has come in. I don't think anyone truly appreciates how good our offensive line actually is. Yeah, you know what? Like some people take it personally, right? So when you point out that, hey, no, it's all James Cook, like we need to pay him this contract or we're going to be screwed. And one thing I always say is, folks, like, so there is a reason why Ty Johnson has done so well with the Buffalo Bills. Like he was an RB3 and somebody that the New York Jets ended up just walking away from, right? Like Ty Johnson, while he is a quality running back, he really is. It's not just a miracle that he came to Buffalo and he completely skyrocketed his career and he became one of the best RB3s we've ever seen, right? I honestly think when you look at all of the advanced metrics like yards per carry, right? Explosive rate, it has everything to do with our blocking scheme. I don't think that we have a running back on this roster that even comes close to an elite guy. But that's okay because we still have a quality run attack. And I think it has everything to do with our offensive line, which guess what? Is coming back this year fully healthy. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a dig. It's not an insult to the running backs we have on this roster. But I think it is a very successful arranged marriage. Shout out to Cromer for putting together a perfect offensive line, not only for protecting Josh Allen, but also for the exact same thing as our run blocking scheme. No, pay that man. It doesn't matter how great of a career is if he can't support his family. So this year he's getting paid $5 million, right? So $5 million. And I feel like that's enough to support a family, right? Like $5 million. So I'd say so. So he's going to be paid And so I'm not even the kind of guy that's upset about, oh my God, he doesn't deserve $15 million a year. Like me, like I'm kind of like, folks, like, why are we so upset about $15 million a year? Like, we're not talking about a quarterback contract that's 55, etc. Um, so it just depends on a number of priorities, right? So this year, when I ended up looking at all of the priorities for Buffalo, like my number one priority for us to resign was Christian Benford. He was number one for me. I had to go on ahead and get that man paid, right? Next up was Khalil Shakir because he was the number one wide receiver we have on this roster based off of targets. And then afterwards, I suppose I was okay with Bernard, right? Because, of course, he stepped up, especially when Edmonds ended up walking away from Buffalo. He had to be that guy for us. And Greg Rousseau was important for me as well, not due to his production, but because, say that we didn't extend him this year, then we would have had a crazy cap hit with his fifth-year option. And James Cook, so unfortunately, was just the odd man out. It's tough for me to say. And it's not even a bad thing that he is going into this season so without a deal. And something I always say, right? Like, what's the problem? So with having a guy that has a chip on his shoulder that's going to walk into this season knowing that he needs to prove that he is worth $15 million a year, right? Whether or not that's the Buffalo or whether or not that's to some other team, he's going to have a crazy solid season. And granted, while I know that Buffalo is going through OTAs today, we do have mandatory minicamp coming up in 8 short days. So let's see whether or not that he shows up. But remember, if James Cook does not play at all this season, say that he sits out, then he's not making a dime, like not a dime. And he's owed $5 million based off of him participating on this roster for 17 weeks. So, yeah, I feel like $5 million is certainly enough and to support your family. I just got done with weightlifting from 7:30 a.m. I think Ray Davis will have a good season. Brantley, what is going on, my friend? And so I weightlift at 5 a.m. in the morning, bro. And so I respect that. And shout out to the gym bros in the chat, man. Shout out to the gym bros in the chat. Let's make it happen. Very true, actually, Dan, on Cook and the offensive line. Like, look, like, I think Cook's a very good player, right? I am a big fan of James Cook, right? But I feel like a lot of us really need to understand that. So there's a reason why James Cook, Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson were electric last year when it came into advanced metrics. It's the common denominator. It's the common denominator of how good our blocking scheme was and what type of offensive coordinator we had as well, right? It's kind of how it is. Carvin has come in with a statement. Morning, Dan. My weekend was horrible, just horrible. My Knicks got eliminated, but at least this Buffalo Bills team gives me the joy that I need. I am so sorry to hear that. In fact, I was thinking about my friend Richie when the Knicks got eliminated by the Indiana Pacers. That sucks, right? And so I feel like when it comes to NBA fans, like people are just like, oh my God, we have an OKC and a Pacers finals. I feel like that's not as exciting as what it could have been, but is what it is, man. I am sorry. I hope that the Bills can make you feel a hell of a lot better. Let's see what we have. As great a year as Cook had last year, let's not forget the season before and his first season, all his drops and fumbles. So I'm not going to go on ahead and hold that against them because I do think that players do improve, right? And rookies make rookie mistakes. He did prove that his drops and his fumbles were significantly better last year. So I wouldn't necessarily use that as something like, oh, like he doesn't deserve a contract rate because of that. And so I do think that James Cook does deserve a contract, right? And I don't want anyone to think that like I'm like a big James Cook hater. I'm not. But I do like being right in the middle, right? So I do think that what's important to James Cook is guaranteed money. It's not the phantom $15 million per year, right? Because that is the most misleading stat you'll ever see in your entire life, folks. Never look at annual average value. Always look at guaranteed money and then divide that by the years of the contract, and that will typically make you feel a hell of a lot better. Because when you see 15 million AAV, right, and it's a 4-year contract, and let's just say it's $60 million, right? But the guarantees are at $35 million, right? That's basically a 2-year contract. And once the guarantees are all done, then a team can walk away with very limited cap implication, right? Like no more dead money being added to that said player's contract by itself. So don't get enamored with, oh my God, $15 million a year. What? Yeah. Like, look, like, so a perfect example. So was, of course, the Trevor Lawrence contract. And many of you know that I think Trevor Lawrence sucks. And I do not think that he is a good quarterback whatsoever. However, his $255 million contract was not nearly as bad as people thought it was because his guarantees were only at like, I want to say was around, I'd say 100, like 110. So realistically, like was just like a 3-year deal with an option to get out if necessary. But we will see. We have Miguel. James Cook is a top 10 running back in the NFL. And so I know our offensive line is good, but Cook is the best running back we had since Thurman. Let's be real. And he's only going to get better. Pay him $10 million and let's make this to a Super Bowl run. Guys, look, man, like we have a lot of people that go to bat for James Cook, and I appreciate that, right? Because I do think that running backs are not necessarily respected enough right in today's league. But as far as 10 million, I don't think that that's something that would make him happy. Like not unless, of course, that was so with guarantees, right? Like he's looking for $15 million per year. So with the AAV. And so if you were to ask me like what I think would do it for him would be a 3-year, $45 million contract, which technically would be 15 million bucks. However, so the guarantees would be at around like 25 million guaranteed. And that basically would just tie us 2 years down for him. And we could walk away after year 3, say, for example, that it didn't work out. That's a deal that I think that he would ultimately end up taking. That's me. Or hell, 30 million fully guaranteed. That right there, I think would be completely fine. Because when you end up looking at how the salary cap and just continues to grow, like with each and every single year, folks, every single NFL team has on average $30 more million to spend. So largely a contract like that for him probably wouldn't piss us off after next year. Honestly. Hot take, both our offense and defensive coordinators will be taken by other teams next year. Definitely Joe Brady. 110% Joe Brady. It's not so sure about Babbage. I think that he still has one more year, and hopefully he turns it around, right? Because while I loved what he brought to the table as far as his defense's ability to take the football away, we did have significant issues in stopping third down conversions. And stopping third down conversions for me was less than ideal. We have Calvin Tim. And do you think Milano can stay healthy the whole season? I feel like our defense struggles without him. I mean, dude, I hope so. And so I really hope so. It still frustrates me that we've heard Joey Bosa is already dealing with an injury. It's not something that I did want to see. And Matt Milano has been known to be injury prone. Last year during training camp, he tore a bicep and just tackling a dummy. Fingers crossed that he can stay healthy, right? And him and Bernard can finally have a season together, and our linebacker core will be good. That's my overall thought. Big Papa Bill, pay Cook his $15 million gross money and guarantee only $8 annually. Give him the California income tax treatment for having a number 1 quarterback and top 5 offensive line. I like that. So $15 million gross, 3-year deal. So which would rate in turn just guarantee 24 mil. And give him that opportunity, right, of earning the remainder of his contract. I like it. I like it a lot, dude. Cook can't make the catches that Ty Johnson has made, regardless of his stats. So James Cook actually did do pretty well last year in the pass game, but as far as highlight reel catches, I get that. Also, it's post June 1st and still no big moves around the league yet. I have a feeling that we might see a trade today. Say that I'm a gambling man. So I think that we're going to see a Jalen Ramsey trade today. That's my hot take. And Davis will be the reason Cook won't get paid. Johnny Thunders has come in. Ooh. Yes, poor Bosa, but I have faith. Oh my God. Oh my God. Cook can't make catches that Ty Johnson has made, regardless of the stats. No Bones has come in. All right. Anyway, guys, folks. And so I sincerely appreciate you tuning in to another edition of the Don Mafia Report. All right. As many of you know, I'm live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. EST. I appreciate everybody that makes this a part of their daily routine to come hang out with me and talk football. I might be live a little later this afternoon, especially if there is anything that comes out of Buffalo Bills OTAs, but I will certainly be live later for Roundtable Sports Fourth and Forever. Folks, that is the Roundtable Sports Network daily NFL news show where we cover everything NFL. So certainly go ahead and give that a view. We will be live at 1 p.m. EST. Go subscribe and turn on bell notifications. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys, and I will see you later today. Peace.